Welcome to this brief how-to video on using the Edit Trips page. So by default, if you haven't set anything up on your account, you're just going to see a big list of addresses, and these are the destination address that you stopped at. So as you go through, you'll see your map gets updated and shows you the path that you took. But you'll see where I'm clicking. I'm not clicking on the actual address. I'm not clicking there. I'm clicking somewhere where it's blank. And that's how we actually select the different trips. What you'll notice is if I click on the address right here, what you'll end up seeing is update location. And what this means is that you can actually update the information of the location that you just clicked on. So for example, if I drag this up, I see the reason why that doesn't work is because I clicked directly on the address. You have to select the trip first. Now, if I drag this up, I can select the radius of how close I can park to the center of this location in order for a new trip that I drive to be assigned to this location. I can also set this location to be a business location. So if I always drive here, this is the La Quinta Inn and Suites in Vancouver. If I always drive to this location for business, I can set that to be business. And then in the future, our system will automatically detect business trips. I can also set the default business purpose. So here I can say some purpose. Okay, and I can actually name this the La Quinta Inn in Vancouver. And we hit save. And you'll see that now it says I drove to the La Quinta Inn in Vancouver instead of the address. So now it's a little bit more easy to read. I know where this trip went to. And my purpose was some purpose. But here's something that happened. You'll see that the purpose got automatically filled in when I edited this, okay? But I can also add the purpose by clicking over here and typing it in. And you'll see how right here it says undefined. Well, that's because I need to refresh the page in order to get the most current status. So now when I click on this, it says some purpose. But here's something that I really want to point out. As we scroll down, the other trips that I drove to the La Quinta Inn in Vancouver, all of a sudden, look at that. They are now filled in, okay? Automatically filled in. So if I had 1,000 trips that arrived to this location and I just updated it the way I did, all 1,000 of those trips will get updated, okay? That's the power of using locations. You're going to update multiple trips. So actually the better thing to name is not some purpose. We'll call it multi-trip purpose, okay? And hit save. Now I'm going to refresh so that everything has the most up-to-date info. So why would you ever want to edit a trip this way? Why would you ever want to edit the purpose of a trip by clicking in the purpose line? Well, here's why. If I want to edit just one trip, this is how you edit the purpose of just this trip. So here I want to say single trip purpose. Okay, and hit OK. What's going to happen is that now that I've got the single trip purpose applied to this trip, I didn't update the info on any other trip. But let me refresh one more time so we have all the most current information. Single trip purpose. Now here's what's important. If I go and change this, say multi-trip purpose 2, and I change that purpose and hit save, this trip did not get updated. That's because I've already set the purpose for this specific trip. But these trips down here, they did get updated. So you can see how this works. If you want to set the purpose for a single trip, use this line. If you want to set the purpose for all the trips going to that location, you want to update the location. And that's all there is to it. It's very simple. So we can expand this and see a little bit more information about this trip. It shows us when the trip started, not just when it ended. It also shows us the start location. So here, this is our destination location. This is our start location. If I click on that line, you can see that I can start editing where we started over there. I can name this something else, and it's going to now update the start location as well. Okay. I can also add a client or edit a client. So here I have some client. Let's say I don't want a client. I'm going to select blank and hit check, and now we don't have a client applied to this trip. That's how you can remove a client. You can also add a note. And you can also hit the trash can sign. This will delete the trip, okay? So only click this if you want the trip gone. It will be gone forever. And this is the lock button. Now, we get people confused on what locking a trip means. When you lock a trip, what it means is that this trip will not go into any future reports, okay? So locked trips will not show up in reports. So you can see how the trip turns gray. If I click on it out here, you'll see gray. There's another lock trip down here. Now, we can also set trips from business to personal. All these trips right now are labeled as personal, okay? I can change that by clicking that button. Oh, now it's a business trip. This trip, I can change. This trip here, that doesn't change. Why doesn't it change? Because I just locked it, okay? You can just unlock it by going like that, and now I can set it to be a business trip. And that's how you set trips from business to personal. You simply click on that button and it toggles back and forth. Really, really easy stuff. And that's about all there is to this page. There's one last thing I want to point out, and I'm just going to briefly point this out because we have a different tutorial that covers it. But you'll see if you hover underneath the plus sign, there's a little gray box that gets highlighted. And you can select a bunch of these, and this allows you to edit multiple trips all at one time. So you select a bunch of trips, hit edit all check trips, and fill in the information that you want to fill in. As I mentioned, there's another tutorial that covers how to edit multiple trips at once, so go check that out. Other than that, that's really all you need to know to use the edit trips list.